Hello. I just kind of wanted to. I was thinking about some things and kind of just wanted to share my thoughts about how time can kind of be considered the fourth dimension. So I have like paint to try to help understand it. So like a point is like 0 dimensions because it's just a single thing. Uh, has no width, no height, no anything. And it can't really even be defined unless you define it within a plane or a line or an area. But so that's just a point. That's just like any given exactness, like a point, because you kind of use point to determine exactness. So it's just a specific instance, and then you go to your second dimension or your first dimension, which I should probably use this tool. Which is first dimension's a line, so it's a point with just points stretched along in order to make an array of points, and you can designate specific points on this line. Like here we have like a point. Whoops, that is a horrible marker for that. Sure, give me this. No, that's horrible. It's very high production value, I can assure you. Here. So like we have a point like right here on the line. It's like right there. You could find like a point and you could define it and you could tell you exactly what it is compared to the rest. So that's like a specific point there. And if you pick any point, you can find like a subsequent point to the right of it, and then you can find a point to the right of that and to the right of that, but there's no like simple progression from like there's no like minimum amount of space that has to be between 2 points, is what I'm trying to like explain. So like if you had like a point that was like 3, you get 3.001 and then 3.00001 and then 0.001. You could keep going on and on forever, and there's just no distinction there. And just wanted to like throw that out for later what I want to explain. And then you get to the second dimension, which is something like this but filled. If we're using black, filled. Oh, I'm retarded. No. Solid color fill? Okay, whatever. So this would be like a plane. So this is 2 dimensions. So you just take lines and you just fill an infinite amount of lines upwards and kind of like outside of the line, like if you're trying to think about that. And you could just basically just like tons and tons of lines stacked on top of each other, or like tons and tons of points, but going not only to the right and left, but also to the up and down. Up and down is a bad way to describe that, but left and right and vertical and what stops at a vertical? Whatever, just like up and down, but not like out. Yeah, and that can also you can also pick a single line, and there's no distinction between this line and that line. It's just what it is. So with that out of the way, we're gonna go on to the third one, which is the last one. That's easy to understand, I would say. And that one is like uh next level drawing skills. Oh, it almost looks okay. And this is like without curvy lines, but and this is like if you just take one of these and then you just start stacking them out, like if you were pulling them uh like out of each other. Like if you had an accordion, you're just like pulling it outwards and you're expanding the accordion, right? So that's how you would consider like the third dimension, which is the one that we most actively like see, like we like kind of think in. because it's just hard to think in other dimensions. Really, it's not very, human brain's not really set up to try to contemplate others because of how we manipulate things and how we learn and spatial recognition and all that fun jazz. And then we get to like the fourth dimension is time. So if you think about all these things, what it is you go from a single point to an infinite amount of points, and then that, which is a line, and then from a line to a plane. The plane's an infinite amount of lines, and you get to like a 3D area, which is a 3D area is an infinite amount of planes. So the obvious next step, right, would be like having an infinite amount of 3D areas, right? And that's where time comes in. So say I'm doing something at 0 seconds, there's going to be an infinite amount of 3D areas that exist within those 0 second time, and that one, or that, yeah, that 0 second time to 1 second. So like if that's swinging a baseball bat and the atoms jiggling around are each slightly different in each individual instance, that's how you like would distinguish it. And that's what kind of how I understand the fourth dimension being time. I know that might not be the greatest explanation and it might not be the most scientific, but that's how I see it. Because like there's no way I could draw you this picture, right? There are pictures of, let me find a picture for you. There's a picture of Tesseract, which is like, oh, you didn't see that at all. Yeah, you saw that one, but you did. They're a picture of like Tesseracts, which are Tesseract engravings. Yeah, so there are pictures of like Tesseracts, right? They're like, oh, this is how you could like imagine like the fourth dimension. You're expanding outwards in all directions, but this is, in my opinion, a bad example of how it's like you're trying to explain how things are going like super out. So you can, these are people explain it to in math terms and geometry terms, and so 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Yeah, this is the one I like. So with this picture, I can actually kind of explain to you why I like to consider the fourth dimension being time. So like starting here, let's say we're moving along the x-axis. It goes from here to here, and at any point it's a different thing. And you can go from any specific point to there, but there's going to be an infinite amount of these like boxes as it moves along this line and as time progresses. So like that picture's actually creeping me the fuck out, first of all. But so what I'm trying to get at is like our instant to instant is basically an amalgamation of an infinite amount of 3D states in which we live. However, we're going forward through that dimension. Like if we lived, like I assume if there was some type of one-dimensional universe, you would live as a point on this line, or the universe would exist on a point on this line that slowly progressed through that line, and I assume it would be an array and it would go on forever. I don't know, maybe it just stops one day. That'd be unfortunate. And then if we lived on a 2D plane, we would exist as either a line or a point, really. And it makes more sense as a line where each point could be different on the line, and then that line slowly progresses through the plane. And then here we get to a 3D object where we exist as a plane, and then there can be different states on this that as they slowly progress through the cube, they change. So like from 0 seconds we could be all black, and then at 1 second we could have this start to form, and at 2 seconds we could start to have this, and at 3 seconds we can like have that, and then like all the way at the end when we're at the top of the cube, our plane can now look like this, and we just like slowly change over time. And then we get to the 3D, where we as a 3D object are slowly changing as we're progressing through the fourth dimension. So that's how I see it. I'm not sure if it's backed up by anything scientific really, but that's as far as I understand the time as a fourth dimension. And this is definitely like a philosophical standpoint rather than uh, a scientific one, because it's kind of like just a logical expansion of a point to a line to a plane to an area, and then from an area to a progression of areas through a time. So yeah, and that's why we use things like graphs to show how things change over time, because it's like a really good indicator. And normally when we do that, we consider the whole picture. And I really like this idea for like something that like exists outside of time, like they exist like one layer up, like they have like a fifth dimension where time changes or some. I actually cannot physically think about something past fourth dimension, and I'm not sure if it's physically possible or not, but I'm sure someone much smarter than me has figured it out. But like if someone lived above that, they lived in a fifth or a sixth dimension, and they could just like see our entire lives as like a graph to them. Like they can just like not they probably wouldn't even be able to see it. Really, they just like sense it, because at that point their eyes work quite too well, because you're looking at a 3D object with eyes, and eyes are 3D objects, so they probably have some other sensory input. But that'd be it's cool to think about, and that's like just kind of my take on it. And I just want to kind of put this out there because I was pretty bored and wanted to talk about something. So yeah, that's it. I think I'm gonna stop recording.